Welcome to Section 2, Lesson 2, Ordering Fractions. Here we're going to look at a couple of ways of ordering fractions. So we're going to start with fractions that have a common numerator. So in the first example, it says, which fraction is larger? And you'll notice that for A, we have 8 over 11 and 8 over 9. Both numerators are 8. So the rule for comparing these is when the numerators are the same, the smaller denominator gives the larger fraction. So let me demonstrate why this is true. Let's just say we got the fractions 1 over 3 and 1 over 4. So I'm going to represent each of these fractions with circles, which we'll say are pizzas. So we cut one pizza on the left into 3 equal pieces, and the pizza on the right is cut into 4 equal pieces. Now just say you're really hungry and you want the bigger piece. Well, you can see that that is this one here, the one on the left. The less pieces there are, the bigger each piece is going to be, which is why this rule works. So now going back to our fractions 8 over 11 and 8 over 9, since 9 is smaller, then that means 8 over 9 is the larger fraction. Now between 4 over 5 and 4 over 6, 5 is smaller, so that means 4 over 5 is larger. Now in C, you'll notice that the numerators are not the same. But what we can do in this case is check to see if you can multiply by a number to make them the same, and then we can pick the smaller denominator. So between 3 and 6, I see that I can indeed multiply 3 by 2 to make it 6, so I'm going to create equivalent fractions here. Now I can't just multiply 3 by 2, I got to multiply 8 by 2 as well. And when I do that, I get 6 over 16. Now since we created equivalent fractions here, we're really going to compare 6 over 16 with 6 over 13, because they both have common numerators. Now 13 is smaller, meaning we will circle the fraction on the right. Now we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to determine which fraction is larger, but this time instead of looking at the numerators, we're going to find a common denominator. So in A, we already have a common denominator of 20. So between 9 over 20 and 3 over 20, you can say that 9 over 20 is larger. Now in B, we don't have common denominators. One's a 12 and one's a 4. So we're going to use a similar process that we just did for the numerators and create equivalent fractions. So if the denominators are not the same, then we multiply. So I'm going to multiply 3 over 4 by 3, because 3 times 4 is 12. So multiplying the numerator and denominator by 3 gives me 9 over 12. So now the two fractions I'm going to compare are 5 over 12 and 9 over 12. Now since 9 over 12 is bigger, that means 3 over 4 is larger. Now for this last example, we have to arrange these fractions from least to greatest. So we can make sure that they all have a common numerator or make sure they all have a common denominator. So I'm going to find a common denominator here. So I look at 8, 4, 6, and 2 and ask myself, what number can they all divide into evenly? And that would be 24. 8 can divide into 24. 4 can divide into 24, as well as 6 and 2. So now we're going to create equivalent fractions by writing each fraction over 24. So what do I need to multiply 8 by to get 24? That would be 3. So multiplying 3 and 8 by 3 gives me 9 over 24. Now for the second fraction, 1/4, I'm going to multiply that by 6. And when I do that, I get 6 over 24. 5 over 6 is going to be multiplied by 4 to give me 20 over 24. And a half needs to be multiplied by 12, giving me 12 over 24. So now looking at the numerators, I see that 6 is the smallest. So that's the least. Then it would be 9 over 24, 12 over 24, and then 20 over 24. Now when I arrange these, I'm not going to write out the equivalent fraction form. I'm going to write out the fractions from the original list. So writing them out in order gives me 1/4, 3/8, 1/2, and then 5/6. So here have you seen a couple of methods of ordering fractions. You can now move on to the next video in this lesson.